go.
Yeah.
His
It
dad
is.
was.
That's what she said. It is as frustrating as it can be.
We are ready, Mr. Johnson.
Never
Okay.
knew where he was gonna show up. When I lived in Redview, and I lived in Bethel Bay, I lived in Charleston, I lived in Charlotte, and he just knocked on the door.
All right. Guys, if you're ready, let's go ahead. I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd like to call a special meeting of the Historic Preservation Review Board to order. Mr. Boswell, roll call, please.
Mr. Owens? Here. Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here.
Mr. Weaver?
Here,
Mr. Geisler?
Here.
And Mr. Johnson?
Here.
We have
Thank you.
one.
Thank you. Before we get started, I would like to welcome our newest member, Mike Owens. Mr. Owens has served on this board before. He is the newest appointee, so to speak, to town council. Very good to have you.
Thank you.
So, welcome. This is a special called meeting from the meeting we had last week in regard to 2 certificate of applications, and I'm aware of the other that we'll discuss, have under discussion. The first is the COA for Ms. Childers. If you would, just step up and tell us a little bit about what you found and supplement what we discussed last week.
We took down went up underneath the wood and discovered that there were panels that lay there, the old panels from where the windows were. They were in good shape. They looked like it would be fairly easy to cut the glass and fit it again.
Which would it be? The
What
doors.
bridges? Oh, yes, and the doors were not ADA compliant, and so we would have to keep the remaining door.
So you have the original doors, but you can't put them back up?
They're beautiful.
Per rig.
Yeah,
We'd be hitting up
Issue
with,
ADA.
we'd be hitting up with 2 different parts of the code. One is their interior opening, and part 2 is that they're only 30-inch. He said if they were still in there, they would be grandfathered in because they've been removed, and it's been, I imagine that door's been in place for 50 years at least. It would be considered a new door.
Were there 2 doors, or is it? But so it was a bigger opening, but the doors are too small, is that?
Correct.
And they open the wrong way?
Yes, sir. The framing for the doorway is actually still present. I think it's not something we would want to fight at this point, definitely. But there could be, we could request a review by some state group and get a buy-in from them, but it's not gonna be a very quick process, but it's something we're interested in looking at some future time.
You could ask for interpretation, technical review board, state technical review board.
So there were 2 doors,
There were.
and they were side by side?
Very similar to Catbirds.
Each of them are 30 inches?
Yes, sir.
So that-
I think one is 30 and one is 31-ish or something.
And so the existing 60-inch frame basically is still there, you said?
Yes, sir.
It has
So
the
with
same
the-
color paint as the doors on it.
Or-
The paint color is still the same as the doors. In the crease, you can see it. It's kind of neat.
Could you reconfigure them to open out? I mean, just reversing the
Sure.
hinges?
And we're interested in doing that at some future point. Inquiring as to getting the certificate of.
Yeah, I think one of the issues was one of the doors latches, the way that it latches, the old style to the floor and to the ceiling. And right now, it's not something that we would be able to approve.
He would need to get that to approve, is my understanding.
Yeah, we'd have to get a technical review from DHCD.
So your request today is to take out the wood paneling that was put in there and put the glass back?
Yes. And
And what about, and then you're gonna put the letters on the glass? What did you decide to do about your sign?
So we will have the sign, the exterior sign that hangs out from the building.
Yes, put the lettering on the glass.
Yes,
Yeah, we approved that last time.
yes.
Yes.
So then I think the other thing is just painting
And the lights.
and the lights. Oh, yeah, the lights.
Oh, yeah, you all came up with a picture that actually shows the glass.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you change the paint now from green back to black, or did I read that wrong?
No, it was, I sent the wrong picture initially, and
Okay.
it was black initially, but now it has a green and black together with the gold accent.
What are we looking at there?
That would be the top of a paint can.
Okay.
That picture, it would have had the actual whole, I don't know, it didn't transfer. It's black. Standard. I
So
think it's
again, what
actually
we're
called magic.
talking about is removing the panels, going back with the glass, which was the original. The door will remain the same for the time being. The lettering we actually approved at our last meeting. And then we've got the exterior signage,
Yes.
which was approved as well.
Yes.
All right, so the only other issue would be the exterior light
And painting.
and painting. That light is to go right above the door.
Yes.
And above the windows.
How many lights will there be?
I would say probably 1, 2, 3 of those, and then there's a dangling by chain sconce type or pendant type light that we would replace with the next. There's another picture of a light in there, Jason.
Are you gonna put a light up over each panel?
One over the door, one over the windows, one over this, over the middle, and then one over the other windows.
That's 3
You
total.
want to,
Sure.
So there's one existing light here that is not period and it doesn't look very nice. So replace that with one there. We would place one here, do the new pendant matching the same style, and then one there. So just kind of light the block a little bit at the front.
No lighting on the cider house, or whatever that thing is.
It's all combined, but yes, there would be one above kind of where that is. We'll have to phase it, so the initial phase will be to take out the wood above the windows on the right side as you're looking at it. The second one has a whole frame and stage type thing that's there, so that's gonna take us a little bit longer. But again, it's within, I think we get approval for a year to do changes, so we would have it done well before that.
I was jogging by last weekend, and
Yes.
Mr. Childers was nice enough to give me a tour, and it's gonna look amazing with those windows back in there. It's
Oh.
gonna put so much light in.
Natural.
And the room actually, it looks so much taller, bringing that down.
Yeah. It's gonna be great. Well, I would move that we grant the certificate of appropriateness.
I'll second
I've got a motion, I got a second, any further discussion? And to be clear, the COA as submitted is the glass panels, the lights, the lettering's already been identified. And the exterior signage. Okay.
And the color.
And the color, well, have we discussed the color? The committee can make recommendations. Does anyone have any concerns with the color as proposed?
I wasn't here. So is it still light?
I have a picture here, would you like to?
Yeah, because there is. So is that black or charcoal gray or?
Well, I'm not going to get this to you with Robert's rules.
Magic Midnight.
I'm sorry. Am I?
No, no, we'll,
Magic Midnight?
I think that was, it's black. It's actually the ceiling color
Of
inside
the
right now.
10?
It's black magic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
You cut it
Black magic.
backwards.
And we know that's historic.
any questions?
No, I like to see them paint that downspout too, so it just go away, but blend into the side. It's just a thought.
Well, that's not a downspout, I don't, the columns you mean?
The piping above?
The gutter.
Yeah.
Oh, the gutter, I got you.
I would love to do that. I've not spoken with Mr. Dalton, but I would like to talk to him to see if he would prefer it comes from the neighboring William King house, and from the historic picture that you have there a couple earlier, it actually goes down, you can see it going down, and then it'll go to the street or under the sidewalk into the street. I've not spoken to him yet, but my plan is to see if he would prefer that to go as it was
Well,
originally.
just think, because it's white now, you don't see it.
Right.
Right.
Once you darken the facade, then it's gonna become a feature.
We would prefer to make it black.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Geisler? And Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Look forward to seeing everything, guys.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all
Thank
again
you all
for
so much.
taking the project.
Been fun.
The next COA, Ms. Carneal, did you bring us anything?
Right, your brick.
All right, any dimensions or anything of that nature?
Yes. Brick. Like to see it? Closer. Pretty much.
That's it.
It's
All
hot.
nice old brick.
It's been, yeah, it's nice.
Patio is 29 by 12.
These are her old bricks she got from,
Yes.
she dug out.
Look like the ones that fall off my house and do
Let me go back over. It's hard to read whenever the glasses keep fogging up. What are any dimensions on the steps? Any other?
These should be 8 foot to 8 foot steps, and this is a 6 and a 4. 2 feet deep, so more like kind of a landing than a narrow step.
And the brick are going right down the center.
There's brick in the center, and then there'll be brick on the facing of this concrete. Brick is already here. Some of this wall is already brick, but like underneath those stairs is, yeah, all open. That's the way it is now and has been. So we would finish that and finish all that under the porch in brick. Yeah, all that.
So these handrails that were there, are those going back up for the steps?
I would love to use them. Certainly
Were
can.
those the handrails that came down? from
They
that?
were on that brick structure, whether you want to let a deck or porch, I'm not
So
sure.
are you, I see you've got handrails coming down.
Yes.
Are these just gonna go back up?
Well, I mean, they could actually. I hadn't thought. I mean,
That's the kind of detail we have to know.
What material, yeah, if you're
I mean, if you
changing
would
the
light them
material-
up, that would be, I mean, I'm sure we could figure a way, but no, those are just rails. The rails that were on
Right.
existing steps weren't anything significant.
No, I mean, the handrail is not the risers for the stairs. I know that you're putting new ones there, yeah.
Yeah, and these are there. This is here, and we put this one here.
So
When did
those
you
two
put
are
that?
existing,
Yes. Well, this is existing,
and you matched it?
and we would match it, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it'd be great if you could use the handrails again, put the original back up, for sure. But they'll have to fit with your proportions.
Right.
You want to see what I'm talking about?
Where are you?
Okay, go back to that one,
Yeah,
wait,
they were over
go to the
here.
big picture.
Yeah. That one?
Yeah, back one, there, okay, so you're talking about taking down those screens.
Yes.
So to the right, you wanna do that pattern out?
Right.
out of the same material?
Yes.
That it is.
Right. And so then the 8-step, the 2 8-foot steps would be in the middle.
I mean, 'cause
Now-
those appear to match your, what you have there, I mean, that was what was there before.
Now, again, this screen part was definitely added on. Okay, you can see that the original is just a porch. And then you can see where somebody's come in and added the screen part.
So you want to take the
And
screen
I would
out.
like to take the screen down and just have it back to an open.
And then the brick that you're going to face the concrete pad with, is that going to be, you know, just a traditional every brick spaced half to the other one? You see what I mean, like to where the 2 bricks above the brick below are gonna be splitting the difference between the 2, you're not gonna do like a modern pattern or anything like that.
Right, whatever I need to do.
Like that.
Okay, yes.
Do you know what type of mortar you're gonna be using?
Well, Nancy asked me that, and, I mean, it seemed like you all are the.
Well, and the reason being, in historic structures, the mortar itself is a lime-based
Mhm.
mortar. These brick, unlike modern brick, didn't go through kilns, anything of this nature. The brick actually expand.
Mhm.
The lime-based mortar versus Portland allows movement. You know, and if you use Portland, anything of that nature with these brick, the brick will crack over time. So we recommend lime-based mortar, and I can put you in contact with companies.
Okay, I talked to one today, Edison Coatings from out of Connecticut,
Okay.
that mix, somehow.
Yes, ma'am.
But they're familiar with all the mortar. But yeah, that would be, do you have a, what about the color of the mortar, is that important?
Yeah.
To match,
Just keep a,
I mean, we typically would, you know, like to see something, you know, as far as the color. Most of those are a buff
There's-
or,
so maybe what I do, just pick the cleanest part that I could find and just match that. I mean, obviously, it's just so much of it is, covered in dirt, but
Yeah, the idea would be to match.
to
what-
match what's there, yeah.
What about these steps here, are they wooden?
They will be wooden, yes.
And are you gonna have any type of handrail down from there, or?
Well, like I said, they're gonna be, it's more like a landing being 2 feet deep.
I mean, I don't know if one's required by the code or whatever, I'm not saying that you have to have one, I'm just asking if you're planning on having one of them.
I hadn't planned on having
Okay, well,
one
if you're not, then that-
because they're so deep.
When you say wooden, are you talking about plywood, are you talking about oak, are you talking about painted, are you talking about stained? I mean, I don't feel like you're giving us enough information here to kind of figure out what you're doing when you just say wooden.
Well, whatever, I mean, there was wooden steps up there before.
Okay, well, were they painted, were they
They
stained?
were painted, yes.
Are you gonna match that paint then, or what's your plan?
I don't know that it would look that good painted. I mean, if it's important to,
It's not, I'm just asking you what you're doing. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what you've got planned here.
well, I mean, is it something that you prefer? Do you prefer one way or the other, painted or not painted, or, because I mean, it's not that important to me. I wanted them to be 8 foot long, but, what was up there was just, you know, had some paint on it.
what do you, as far as your, if you would go back to the other picture, Jason, that, your privacy fence, the right hand
Yeah.
side,
So there
Are
are,
you gonna stain it?
there are two, I was gonna paint it.
Okay.
So there are two 8-foot panels up now. And actually, I think I put on the information, we would add another 8-foot, but it would need to be another 8-foot panel and then another, a part of it, a 4-foot more to get to the end of this.
And they're gonna match the same style as what's up?
What's up?
And is what's up now painted?
Well,
Right there it is.
it's just, no, it's probably just.
So are you gonna paint all of it?
More
or-
natural. I would make it all look the same, so I mean, I was just thinking, whatever paint I use, we could just make it all look the same.
I think,
We don't like paint, well, I mean,
Well, no, ma'am, it's not that, it's just, trying to figure out, really, whenever an applicant comes before us, saying, you know, what are you gonna do? It's not up to us to, you know, say, hey, you need to do this or that. It's taking what you say and then saying, hey, does that fit within the guidelines? Now, paint, the committee can make recommendations on paint. You know, but for example, solid board fences, you know, if they're painted, they should be painted or stained in an opaque color. Solid board fences, you know, we're trying to figure out really what you're asking us to approve.
okay. Well, and given that this is kind of just starting, I mean, I'm flexible, you obviously see that, so I am saying to you, if you like brown paint, we'll paint it brown. If you don't like paint, and you just wanted a natural wood, then we can just leave it natural wood.
I think we can approve either. We
Just-
probably wouldn't approve every other board red and white, but.
Yeah,
You see what I mean?
right.
So we,
I don't know how it would look to put new railings up, you know, I mean, they would obviously weather over time.
I think you'll find that in the building code, that if that drop is more than 21 inches, you're gonna have to put a railing across the space that we're looking at. And that's something that the building official can talk to you about, but that's what I'm remembering.
do you know how much that drop is?
Are we talking about this drop?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think it's 21 inches, I'm thinking more like 18, but I did not measure that for sure. But, you know, again, if it needs a rail, and you don't find a rail, then we put a rail.
It's just an observation, it's not required.
So right now, if I'm up to speed, we need to approve the brick, the mortar, which would be lime base, that would match the existing mortar.
Right.
We need to approve addition of the fence,
Yes.
color pending, or stain pending.
Okay.
Addition of the rail that was there before, that matches the one that's already there. The one that was taken down, put it back, or make it match with the same type of wood. Is there anything else you're asking?
And taking down the screen part of the
Okay.
porch, so that it's back to an open. That's correct.
And placing the wood steps. There's two sets of wood steps she's putting
Yeah, from the top level down onto the new concrete. And
Right.
then from the concrete down onto the existing grade.
Right, there were wood steps there.
in. Were they painted or were they just natural?
They were painted, but again, it was just so worn, it wasn't, but there was some paint on them, I'm
A question I got on the steps you want to make like landings that are 2 feet.
sure. Down here,
Yes, the tread part, is it gonna be one piece of wood, or is it gonna be 2 or 3 slats of wood?
the
That's
tread.
kinda what you were asking.
Yeah, I'm just having a little visualization.
Gosh, I should've brought my, son that was, you just said 6 foot wide, 2 foot wide deep. So you're asking, yeah, I see what you're asking.
2 by 6s to make up that depth.
Right.
That would probably.
That
be
would
the
probably
easiest
be
way.
the,
It would weather better.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah, it's gonna be treated wood.
Well,
And then you got your privacy fencing.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the brick and the mortar, the lime-based mortar that matches, the color matches the existing brick. Approve the privacy fence, color pending though, till you can decide whether you want it stained or painted, and, you know, we can decide, or help you out, decide that. I don't think we can help you decide that, but we need to figure out what it's gonna look like before we get approved. Does that make sense? On the stain on the, or paint on the privacy fence?
I think they're gonna tell you you have to wait to paint it anyway. I don't think that's something you're gonna do immediately when you put it up.
It's
well,
gonna have to weather
let's
anyway.
just forget the paint. I mean, if we just said we're gonna just,
Have the motion include the rail.
okay,
Take the screen away. The step, I'd like to get more information off the step, if you don't mind, so we can,
these,
yes, if you can have your contractor get back with us on how he's gonna build it, you know, the material, the height, all that, that should be real quick and easy to do.
okay.
Does that help you get started, what I'm suggesting as far as making a motion on? And then you
Well,
can come back with us on the,
okay, so what you're saying, I can go ahead and extend the fence here.
if
Yes,
it passes, yes.
okay, and then I can, go ahead and start the brick and the mortar
Correct,
in the places that needs to be done.
correct.
Can I go ahead and put I can take the screen down,
Correct.
and I'll put the steps up.
We just need the specifications on the steps. I know you specified they were, I think, 8 foot and 4 foot. But, I mean, is it treated material? What are the risers? I mean,
With, and these are they're the same, they're 2 8-foot-long steps.
What he's suggesting is we need to know the material that he's gonna use to build those steps.
yeah, I'm assuming that's treated wood.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
would it
that'd make most sense, but
treated wood?
So until we do
So if you know it's treated wood,
are you gonna paint it or stain it or?
I think if you could just go through the neighborhood and see the steps on somebody else's house, like you plan to do it, and bring us a photograph and say, I'm gonna do it like this.
I mean, I'm assuming.
Because we
he's gonna-
can't approve, we can't visualize what you're thinking.
You're definitely gonna use the same handles though, you're gonna put those back up. I mean, I think that's important, I think we'd have to approve you not putting it back up,
Right.
taking them away and demolishing them. I think they have to go back up, so that's why I think that needs to be included.
and you're talking about the ones going down the
The
steps.
handrails, yes,
Yes.
that are sitting in the backyard.
Okay, so,
that are shown on the top photo.
Yeah.
yes,
But what he's talking about is how the steps are gonna be built. I mean, I think what you're gonna find is, you know, there's gonna be 2 vertical parts at least made out of wood that are gonna have this step down pattern that are gonna be anchored into the wall and somehow anchored into the pad. And there's gonna be a board that goes across the top of each and they're gonna be open in between. But we need to see those kinds of details to know exactly what this is going to look like.
okay,
We need that plan.
okay.
And we're not, please don't misunderstand, we're not being difficult, but the guidelines specify, you know, every COA should include sufficient information relative to dimensions. And it actually says, you know, whether it's architectural drawings, anything of this nature, we've never specified that detail. But, you know, again, we've got to have some detail as to, you know, what the committee is actually approving. If you can get us that, then we've got a motion right now relative to the fencing, the screening, the brick, the mortar, and the handrails coming down from the front, from the top portion down to the existing or the new slab. That's the motion. So really the only thing that's lacking then would be the dimensions on the stringers, the material, and the actual steps themselves. If you can get us something on that, that's the only item that's lacking, I think, from what you're asking the board to approve.
Okay.
Am I wrong, or?
No,
correct me
I
if
think
I'm
that's
wrong?
right. Yeah, I didn't, yeah. I was a little lax on the steps.
I'll second that.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Owens? Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver? Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item actually says adjournment, but we have an item that came up earlier that we'd like to take under discussion. This is a COA that the committee actually granted earlier with the provision that just Mr. Levine come back and tell us what materials that are going to be utilized. I'm assuming that's what we're doing today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you just step up and then tell us what's going where?
Sure.
please?
And I've got, if, for the two new members, if they'd like, I have a copy of it, I've got the elevation of the, what we're doing. And also, if I could just regress a minute for the benefit of the two new members. The existing house is this piece. And if you walk down the Creeper Trail at Trestle 1, if you look over, you can see the house. It has it, or had until last week, a shed roof coming out this week, this about 10 feet, with a two-story addition on it, which was a blue vinyl. So that's been taken off, and we'll be going back with the addition here. And what I was tasked to do was come back with the materials. One of the first questions was regarding the cable railing system around the deck. Currently, there's a carport here, and it's just a metal roof, but we'll be going back with the deck in that. And we'll be using a cable railing system that will be built up post, and then the railing system. They also have one of the cable railing system where you buy these 8-foot pieces and you just install them. We're going with the builder will actually build it, so I can't really show the materials, but that's what it will look like when it's finished. The decking, we'll be using a decking on the deck, which is a waterproof decking, and it'll be a cedar color on the decking. The deck will be 22 by 30 feet, and the builder will build the railing, and then the cable system will be installed. The cable system itself is going to be a 3/16 stainless, 1/4-inch cables, and the decking, of course, it won't look like that and be jagged. It'll be a straight going around because it's a square deck. And then here, if there's any other questions on the cable railing system.
Yeah, I think and Mr. Boswell, please refresh my memory. The only thing we're really looking at one was the color.
The color, right, and it will be,
The materials we actually approved
okay.
in the prior COA, but you wanted a little more time on the color.
On the color, and the color will be it'll be a stained wood, is what we're thinking of now. It's a stained wood, and it will be complementary to the cedar color.
And it's almost the color that's in the picture.
It's
The way I
very close to
picture-
the color, and it's be very close to that for the color.
Can you just tell me exactly where this is? Trestle 1?
Trestle 1, if you're facing Trestle 1.
Okay,
And you look to the right, there's a two-story.
yeah.
Which is what we call our cottage that we remodeled. It's got the new porch on
Mhm.
it. and then the very next house.
Okay, I just want to be clear what it was.
Yeah, the house right next to it.
Remember Billy the
350
Bus?
Spring Road.
Who?
Billy the Bus.
No.
You know,
His old house, it's the
Okay.
bus
yeah.
house. So that would be it would be stained, again, very close to the color you see there, it would be that color stain. The other thing was the brick. When we were here last time, we said that we had planned on this brick. We still plan on this brick because after 6 months of looking, it is the closest we can find. The existing brick, this is a very, very similar color. It's the same texture. It's a modular brick, so the height of it is the same. The only difference is the existing brick in this is a Norman style brick. And despite all the looking we've done, we have not been able to find a Norman sized brick. So we're going to go with the modular. And what we've been, after our architect told us, was the height of the brick and keeping the vertical lines the same is more important than the vertical up and down. The horizontal lines, it's more important than the vertical lines, because with the vertical lines, of course, you got a brick pattern, so you don't ever see straight lines. But that's the only difference. We did find one company that actually makes this brick in a Norman brick. They haven't had a run in 3 years, and they're not gonna make a run for the limited amount of brick we need, so. That's, so we are asking to go with this brick, which is a German shield brick. And then for the siding, which you see, which will be a lap side, it's an LP lap siding.
Can you tell Joe, which is the siding on the top there, it's brick on the bottom and.
Right, in other words, this is brick, this is your siding, this is siding here. We've got the brick columns across here on the bottom. This will be a screen porch with the brick, and then the lap siding will be inside here, across to here, and the whole upstairs will be lap siding. And the lap siding that we're gonna go with will be similar to in between those two colors. You can see there is a slight difference, and that'll be actually, as we get the brick up and things, we'll be finding a color in between, but I think that they're close enough that it's not
Joe,
gonna
you
make
could
it.
give them the brick thing and see,
Sure.
they might have suggestions. But it-
You have to lay against the
Take it down
side.
to those page numbers.
Maybe it's better to do it this way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to tell.
Yeah, it is, and then, of course, the brick is not a consistent colored brick. So there is some variation.
And the lap siding will be that smart siding, is that what?
It's gonna be the LP Smart siding? Yes. And we're gonna go with the thin lap, the 5-inch lap, as opposed to the 7 or 8-inch boards, because we don't have that much of it there, and with the smaller amount, the smaller lap has been recommended to us. Oh, and the other one that we're supposed to do is the shingles. We have picked out our shingle. Because the shingles were approved, the house currently has a metal roof, which is not a standing seam. And the original house, when it was built in '63, had shingles, which was replaced, and we're going back to a architectural shingle, which we think is we think it's a good match for the brick.
What color is the shingle?
Color of the shingle is pristine desert. It's an Atlas shingle. So, I believe that's all that we were asked to bring back.
Let me summarize as to what we're actually looking. The cable railing as presented, the brick. Again,
The
Is there a
brick-
color on that
The
brick?
brick is Sunset Flash,
Sunset Flash.
and it's a modular brick.
And is that the name of that color?
Yep, that's what it says on the board.
Okay.
Sunset Flash Bark Modular.
Okay.
And your decking?
The decking is cedar, and it is the duct back, which is self-sealing so that it doesn't leak through to the bottom.
Mhm.
So it's.
Your siding is a LP Smart siding, 5-inch
Smart.
lap.
Yep.
The color that you're actually gonna be using, Sherwin-Williams.
Sherwin-Williams.
Between the two.
And this will be something in between. We're right now leaning with the oak, it's called Oak Creek, is what we're leaning with. But the wicker work and in that shade in there, it may not actually end up being the Oak Creek, but we're planning on.
I would like to ask if that lap siding, is it better to try to match the brick as closely as possible, or is it better to go a little bit lighter, a little bit darker? The windows are outlined in white, and there's lots of white on the house with the garage door and all the windows.
Okay, the exterior windows will be white. And one other change from this original picture, this was showing a nano wall, 4-panel, 13-foot wide opening, but we're actually gonna go with a panoramic deck, a panoramic door, and it'll be 15 feet with 5 panels, but it's gonna be white outside. So
It's the same concept? is that-
Same concept, the whole
Just
thing will
different
open up.
manufacturer.
Yeah,
Okay.
it opens up. It's actually, we've had a better system as we.
I think the tendency would be to go a little bit lighter than the brick, the brick will anchor it.
It's hard to tell who's talking.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit slightly lighter.
It's a judgment call, whatever you prefer, but typically I think people would use the darker brick to anchor it and then have a lighter color for the siding.
Mhm.
But that's just a rule of thumb, that's not
Okay. All
how
right.
it's done by any.
The last thing is an architectural shingle, pristine desert. So you've got 6 different things. Cable, brick, decking, lap siding, Sherwin-Williams color, and then the shingles. Anyone have any questions on the materials that have been presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve these materials.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, roll call please.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Geisler? Aye. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
And one more question, if, one thing the builder is looking at now, and we're pricing, if we change this deck from a duct back decking system to a poured concrete deck and paint it the same color, do we have to come back for that, or would that be something we could do? Nothing else would change, architecturally in the way it would look, except that rather than the duct back system to go to a poured concrete.
And he got this idea because what they're taking off the back of the house, we had no idea that it was concrete. The upper level is concrete with all the bracing that they put in concrete. It's taken those guys 2 days with jackhammers to get that back off. And the builder said it was built extremely well, this house. And they still not finished with that upper deck on the back that was torn off. They got the roof off, but
I think if
Go ahead.
we should at least make a motion and approve the option or not of the concrete and the, I'm not familiar with that decking system.
let him see it, Joe.
It's called, well, actually, this is not the actual system. The
This tongue roof and locks.
This is one that is not waterproof. It's kind of tongue and groove. The waterproof one, which they didn't have in this color sample, but the waterproof one, this piece here actually goes out and comes back up that far, and then the piece that matches to it has an existing one, so that if there's a leak in its tongue and groove, it actually hits the one underneath, so it never can get a leak through. But it's called DUCK-BACK. This is just called deck.
Thank you.
But it's seems like a good project. The builder has used it many times, he said, with no problems.
Yeah, I agree with you, to save a trip back, if that is indeed an option that you would like us to consider, then
Please.
Well, I move that we grant the certificate of appropriateness to allow him to do either of the decking systems, whichever one
either the dovetail or the concrete. I have a motion, and to be clear, the colors are the same.
Right. If we do it, we'll do it with cedar color, cool deck like you put on the front.
I have a motion and a second to allow the option in between the decking systems. Roll call, please.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver? Mr. Geisler? Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so well prepared.
Yes.
We've been working.
No further business before the board. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
it is. So moved.
Motion, and need a second?
Sure.
Got a second? Roll call, please.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver? Mr. Geisler? Mr. Johnson?
Aye.